Good morning to you, Sir Desmond.
Good morning.
Lots to talk to you about, not least some articles about you this morning, which we will certainly come to. Let's talk just first of all about the EU. EU demands British vaccines. One of the front pages today, no, you can't have our jabs. And even the Daily Express saying, wait your turn. Selfish EU wants our vaccines. Basically, the EU signed a contract 3 months after us. It's not watertight. We went with shortage of supply. We've got priority on all the vaccine made in the AstraZeneca manufacturing facilities in the UK, in Oxfordshire and Staffordshire. We get first refusal. The EU is saying they want some of ours. Should we give it to them?
No. Remember, we seeded the investment for Astra, for the jab, because we wanted it produced at a not-for-profit basis, so it would be available to all countries inexpensively at £2 a dose, as opposed to Pfizer, which is about £16 to £18 a dose. The European Union signed a contract which was on the basis of best endeavours. They signed it late, and they signed it where it would be supplied by manufacturer in Europe. So that's the situation they're in. I myself have suggested that we should follow the advice of the Adam Smith Institute and treat this as, a warfare situation. We've got to throw absolutely everything at it. We want more doses ourselves more quickly. And so we've got a contract and it's produced on a non-profit basis. We should be saying to AstraZeneca, look, we will subsidize the increase in your production capacity by offering you a commercial price. Yeah. Remember what this is all costing us at the moment.
Yeah.
So the more money we throw at this particular aspect of it, actually it has nothing with what the delay in vaccination is costing us in terms of prolonging lockdown.
Very much money well spent.
That's what I want to see.
Bild, Germany's most biggest selling newspaper, has said that this is the best advert for Brexit because of the failures of the EU to sign a contract at the same time as UK and America and Australia and others. 3 months delay because they said they wanted to handle it on behalf of individual nation states who'd already been talking to AstraZeneca. Do you agree?
I agree entirely. And it's interesting that all those politicians who criticised us for not opting into EU purchase measures earlier and now have an amount of egg on their faces. And remember, again, we have been internationalist in this whole aspect. We've already given £500 million to international organisations to help poorer countries acquire the vaccine.
I'd like to point out also we've given more than the whole of the EU has given for those. So by quite about, I think about 100 million more than they have given. I feel this is going to be something of a big issue. The EU trying to sort of cast aspersions and cast blame on other countries and indeed on the pharmaceutical companies when, frankly, it's their own fault. But let's talk about something that is the responsibility of this government, and that is the lockdown that we are in. We're constantly told the government has no choice. The government always has a choice. Lockdowns are a political choice. The scientific advisors can advise. Fundamentally, a democratically elected, accountable Prime Minister and his cabinet make those political choices. Yesterday, the Prime Minister finally announced in the House of Commons that we not an exit strategy from lockdown, but that we would be seeing an exit strategy published in the week beginning the 22nd of February, so almost a month away. We now know that schools are the top priority to reopen. He said that we could see the start of a phased return of pupils to the classroom from March the 8th. This could very much leave a lot of school pupils who aren't primary school or aren't GCSE years not going back to school until after Easter, which would be mid-April. Is this good enough?
Well, it's certainly progress. I mean, I'm very much against lockdown. I believe it was a mistake to close schools in the first place, and I want to see schools opened as soon as possible. But actually, yesterday we made significant progress in pinning the Prime Minister down to actually announcing that he would produce a plan and the metrics on which that plan was based. And I was very pleased with the answer that I got from the Prime Minister yesterday when I specifically raised the issue of no mission creep from a reduction in hospital admissions consequent upon progress in vaccinating the most vulnerable groups. Remember, the whole mission of the government from the outset was to stop the NHS from being overwhelmed. And that's the reason we went into lockdown. I think there were other ways of achieving that, but nevertheless, that was the government's chosen policy. And I managed to get from the Prime Minister yesterday a clear undertaking that there would be no mission creep beyond the reduction in hospital admissions, showing that the NHS could cope and it was therefore safe to lift lockdown. So that means that there's been none of these noises off that have been preparing us for restrictions that will go throughout the year and come back next winter in greater form and all the rest, about zero COVID, reduction in infections and all the rest. It's just about hospital admissions and ensuring that the NHS can cope. And I thought that was progress.
Absolutely. And again, if that is what is stuck to, I just wonder if you think that many families who are struggling right now and the children who are struggling with their lessons, I'm really despairing at children being stuck in their bedrooms, if they're lucky to have a bedroom on their own, doing their work online, no outdoor activity. I mean, pouring with rain a lot of the time at lunchtime when they could maybe go out. Just basically, I mean, many kids just simply not getting any education at all. Parents who they think, oh, there's an exit strategy. Oh, March the 8th. Parents clinging to their hope that their kids are going to be back at school soon for the sake of themselves and their children's future, realising that a lot of children may well not be back at school until mid-April, as what the Prime Minister said. March the 8th being just a could and the start and phased return. If you actually work it out together, we are looking realistically at mid-April. That is a very long way away. It's 2.5 months away. Do you think people are going to put up with that?
Well, it's a disaster for children, and it's a disaster for families. I'm getting constantly emails from parents who are at the absolutely end of their tether. Remember, the position of the government is, and I think it's correct, schools are safe. Schools are not vectors of transmission. Schools have been closed purely because of the community activity that they generate, with children going to school in the morning and coming home from school in the afternoon, and the general activity that creates undermining the message, stay at home. Now, I think in terms, if that is the only contribution that schools are making to the nature of the problem, then the question of a cost-benefit analysis of the costs of children not going to school as against this generation of community activity with them going to school strikes me as completely out of kilter.
Indeed. Well, Public Health England has said primary schools were safe to return after half term in February, the last week of February. Only 3% of primary schools had any cases in the autumn term, and most of those were teachers. I mean, we don't know where they've got it from. They may well have got it in the community, as other people will have got it in the community. Let me also ask you about something the deputy leader of the Labour Party, Angela Rayner, has claimed today. She's written a letter to the chair of the Conservative Party, Amanda Milling, following, she says, extremely concerning reports that you have used an interview to spread dangerous misinformation about coronavirus. She says that you endorsed conspiracy theories about the veracity of the disease and that you suggested the official figures have been manipulated, a deeply dangerous claim, she says, for which there is absolutely no evidence. She says the seriousness of your actions cannot be understated, and she is saying your shocking refusal to apologise for this behaviour. She wants some action to be taken against you. Now, this is after Sky News obtained a video of a talk you gave with a group in an interview in November with Save Our Rights UK, a campaign group, in which you made comments encouraging them to persist with their campaign against lockdown. Did you actually use this opportunity to endorse conspiracy theories, or indeed to actually spread dangerous misinformation about coronavirus?
No. In fact, this is all news to me. I was completely unaware of Angela Rayner's letter until you've just announced it to me. I spoke to the organisation, I think it's called Save Our Rights, exclusively about their campaign against lockdown. Because I share their objective, I'm against lockdown as well. And I don't believe I've said anything to anyone that I am not on record of having said in the House of Commons.
So they are apparently, again, I looked them up. I couldn't see, certainly on the checks I made, that they were an anti-vax group. Did you talk to them about vaccines?
No, but anyone who wants to talk to me about vaccines can consult my website, or indeed the question I put to the Prime Minister yesterday in the House of Commons, and what I've also said about vaccines in the House of Commons over the last few months, and you'll see that I am the most enthusiastic vaxxer.
Is it an issue, do you think, to be raised by the deputies of the Labour Party, for about an MP speaking to a group which is whether or not they are campaigning against vaccines or not, or whether they're just campaigning against lockdown, or whatever their views? Should MPs not speak to groups who, I don't know, other MPs disapprove of?
Yes, I think it's an important part of a politician's job. I mean, I'm an elected politician. It's not only my right to voice my opinions, but I'd suggest that it's also my duty to do so. We are getting very close to thought crime here, aren't we? The deputy leader of the Labour Party is complaining about what another member of Parliament says and thinks, as if this was some sort of criminal activity. And I think that that's to be deprecated. I believe in freedom of speech and freedom of expression. Perhaps the Labour Party doesn't.
You also gave an interview 2 weeks ago to anti-vaxxer Del Bigtree. He's a producer for Andrew Wakefield's anti-vaccine propaganda film Vax. Now, I believe Andrew Wakefield to be responsible for deaths of children as a result of his complete open lies, which he knew were lies, about the risks of the MMR disease for autism, which were totally proven to be absolutely untrue. It was fraudulent research, and he was struck off as a result. You gave an interview to the man who produces his anti-vax propaganda film. Is that a good move?
Well, I had never heard of Del Bigtree.
I've got to be honest with you, I hadn't until this morning.
I never heard of him. And he asked me, again, the approach was made on the basis of a speech that I'd made in the House of Commons. Could he interview me about it? It seems to me perfectly appropriate that I should answer that. And my remarks were confined entirely to what I said in the House of Commons, repeating what I'd said there and my opposition to lockdown, and that lockdown is a mistake. And I was entirely unaware of his views on any other subject.
Do you think that, just finding that there is a real issue here where, you people are campaigning against lockdown, Toby Young, myself, when you've got people like eminent professors like Sunita Gupta and Carl Hennigan of Oxford University, and everyone sort of put into the same big mix, whether it's a journalist asking questions, MPs, or eminent professors and academics in their field, talking about whether or not lockdown is or is not a sensible policy, which we agree it is not a sensible policy, and based on looking at the evidence, lumped in with anti-vaxxers and people who think that COVID is a hoax and all made up and part of a worldwide conspiracy. What do you make of the perfectly intelligent people who know better, including, by the way, an MP or more in your own political party, lumping all those people in together and saying that those people are all spreading disinformation?
Well, that's disinformation, isn't it? That they're spreading by lumping us all together when, people have perfectly legitimate points of view in a free society. I assume we're still a free society. I know we've taken many of our civil liberties away during this pandemic, but I thought that freedom of speech and expression still remained, and I'll certainly campaign on that basis.